Okay, guys, our next card is pretty awesome. So I need an oval. I also am going to take a 3 3/4 by 5.5 inch layer of fresh fig, and I'm going to die cut the end with my border image. So I'm just going to have that leaf go right up to the very edge of that piece of cardstock and then die cut this. The die brush does a really great job of getting rid of all those little pieces that get stuck in there. Okay, then I also have a Sahara Sand card base, so I'll fold this in half. I think in your directions I wrote 11 by 4 1/4, but it doesn't really matter. Either one will work. And then I'm going to adhere this on here too, but first I'm going to do this. I've cut a 2 by 5.5 inch piece of vellum and a 2 by 5.5 inch piece of Whisper White, and here's why. When you put this vellum over here, it looks kind of dull and boring. But when you put this vellum on a piece of white and then put it on, it looks amazing. Like, look at how much brighter that is. Okay, so you want your vellum and your white to layer on top of each other. We're going to take some glue dots and just put them on in a bunch of spots behind those flowers to just kind of hide those glue dots. And it does a pretty good job so that you can adhere your vellum really well, but not have any adhesive showing. So just like I'll get one of these corner flowers. A few pieces, or a few dots. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That should be good. 7 ought to do it. All right. And I'll adhere that to my vellum layer. Perfect. Now, sometimes when you don't cut your layers together, you get just a teeny bit of overhang, and you can just snip that off. And that works really well. But oh, doesn't that brightens that vellum so much. I'm just going to center it onto my fresh fig layer and adhere that. And then we'll put it on our card. Now, this isn't even the wow part yet, you guys. Okay. So just adhere like so. Okay. Now we'll adhere that, leaving just a little bit at the top of our card. So pretty. Okay, now I've got my little oval label again, and I'm going to take one of my sentiments, and I'm using one from the set because it's just so pretty. But of course, you can do, whatever you want. You don't have to use the sentiments from the set if you want something different, of course. Obviously, it's your card. You can make it how you want. But what I'm going to do that's really cool, and I think you guys are going to love this, is we're going to do a fun little technique with the ribbon and feeding the ribbon through our label. If I could just figure out, what I did with my ribbon. Now, to do this, you can do it one of two ways. I'm going to show you the way where we're going to use 22 inches of ribbon. If you want, you can do 10 inches of ribbon. Okay, so there's 12 inches, and then, oops, I'll put the 12 to 10, and then I'll cut. So that's 22 inches. Because 12 plus 10 is 22. You're welcome with my mad skills. All right, I'm also going to measure out 6 inches, and this is the tail I'm leaving for my bow. Now, another option for doing this is to simply allow yourself, you really only need about 10 inches to go do what we're about to do, and then you could tie a bow and glue dot it to the top. That is another way of doing it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just weave this ribbon around. So let me do this so it makes sense. So I'm feeding it through, and I want to make sure it doesn't fold up on itself as we're going around and get like a kink in it, because that won't look nice. We want it to be nice and flat, but we're just wrapping this around. How cool is this? And it actually is not as difficult as it's a little pussy, but it's not bad. It's not like a needle and thread where it's really tricky to do. This fits so nicely in this little frame, which I just love. label, whatever you want to call this oval thing. Okay, and when I started, I was just holding this at the 6 inches, so I still have my 6 inches left on there.
Okay, so I'll speed the camera up so you don't have to watch this whole process.
Okay, now at this point you want both pieces at the top. So I'm going to go through this one and bring my piece up, and then that kind of covers that piece. And then likewise, I'm going to bring this layer that I started with up at the top. Okay, so now I've got that, and then I'm just going to tie a bow right here. Okay, so it's relatively easy to do. I know some people don't like tying bows, and again, if you want to just glue dot a bow at the top, no one will ever judge. Now, that 22 inches is pretty generous, so if you don't have trouble tying bows, if you can do it in a smaller length of ribbon, you know, you could probably cut about 3-4 inches off of that 22 amount, because we're going to cut off 3 or 4 inches. Okay, so there's our bow. It looks pretty good. I'm going to have this kind of come down like so and there, and that is very nice. I'll trim those ends off like that. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, and again, if you want to shove a glue dot in there and make it do what you want, feel free. Okay, and now I'm going to put this onto my card. It's so pretty. Oh, every time I make one of these cards, I keep looking at it and thinking it's just so pretty, and I made it. It makes me happy. Of course, you will totally impress your friends and loved ones with your mad stamping skills on this card, or this class, pardon me. Okay, so I've got that on there, so that looks very nice. Now what I'm going to do is embellish with one more thing, and that is one of our, where did my pick your tool works so well for getting these things on here. So I'm just going to add this right here at the bottom. You can do it off to the side, kind of depending on what your sentiment did there. And you can either leave it as is, or you can shove a rhinestone in there. It's up to you. So isn't that just so pretty? Oh, I love it.